Hey everyone, welcome to this live show, the live tech show number 4. We are live from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and we are here to answer your technology questions, whatever they are. This is not a PC Windows show, it's technology. So iPhone, Android, iPad, PCs, Macs, your electronic toaster, whatever you want. This is the show that will answer your questions. And I'm here direct from jail. Yes, I am in prison right now. And this is live from my prison cell as we are in Halloween week. I think a little something to have a bit of fun was kind of cool. So welcome everyone to the live show number 4 already. Wow, the time flies. It seems that just yesterday was number 1, and we're already at show number 4. It's really nice to have everyone on board. So it's not, we are here every Tuesday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. We sometimes go overboard a little bit on the 5 p.m. Answering your questions. That's 19 to 2100 hours universal time. And so next week is going to change to 20 to 2200 hours universal time, as we are going to have our time change in Montreal this Sunday, November 1st. So welcome everyone from my prison cell as we are Halloween week. If you have any questions during the show, any comments, anything you want to share that we can talk about, helpwithyourcomputers at gmail.com. That's where you get, you'll send me your questions, your comments, your suggestions. This is the only place I am looking at comments. I know a lot of people been leaving questions or comments below the video in the comments section. Please send your questions here. Helpwithyourcomputers at gmail.com. It's the best place to join me. And it's nice to have everyone on board on this October 27th show. Today we have a lot of questions already that have been sent. So I have a lot of questions from last week and this week. During the week, and we have some new questions that actually popped in even today before the show arrived, as people did see that my show is really getting on the air today. First, I want to talk a little bit about, before we get to the questions, about security, and not the Windows 10 security. I want to talk another aspect of security in our technology today. You know what? I receive every week questions, and I read articles and blogs about Windows 10 privacy issues. And every time I read one of those posts, every time I see something like that, I always wonder if, we're not just looking at the wrong place. A lot of people say, well, Microsoft's bad. Microsoft wants to have your personal data. But you know what? One of the things that is more scary to me, and I think that's why that privacy issue with Windows 10 is a little bit of nonsense. Yes, it tracks data, but only for usability. I mean, the reason why Windows 10 wants to know you and see through your email is just because Cortana needs that information to give you better features. They aren't scanning that and saying, oh, this guy in Montreal is doing a live show. We should keep an eye on him. Maybe he's, I don't know, a terrorist or something. We got to be careful about that. But you know what's even more dangerous? I'd say even worse than having this privacy issue with Windows 10. If you have your cell phone, if you have an iPhone, iPhone or an Android phone or any mobile phone. Remember one thing, we know very little of what's happening in here. And that scares me more than a Windows 10 computer that asks me for data for Cortana and stuff like that. Why? Because it's pretty clear that they need that information to do functionalities. And, we have some here also. There's Siri in my iPhone, and Siri will needs to be able to access some of my personal data for, um, you know, giving me good details, giving me good results. Problem, what, is last week I did a little news item that really got under the, when we look at something that gets under the radar and nobody hears about it, I don't know, but not a lot of people knew that last week Apple took 250 apps out of the App Store because they were spying on us, stealing our emails, stealing our personal data. It's very interesting to note that everybody's jumping on Windows 10 and on Microsoft. Why isn't anybody jumping on Apple? You know what? When I issued that little piece of news, a lot of you came back and said, wow, I want to know. You're right. We need to know what apps were spying on us. I want to know if that app is on my phone. I'm sorry, but I have the right to know what app stole my data on my phone. And that's where I think every company's problematic. Why doesn't Apple? Because Apple doesn't want me to know that, hey, you got spied on by apps in your iPhone. Sorry for the headphones here, but with the little jail hat, it's a little hard to. So, another issue where I'd say very scared, much more than Microsoft. And I'm not a paranoid guy on privacy issues. I still believe that most of that information that these companies take is really mostly for usage of functionalities in the phones, in the computer, or for the ads, because let's face it, a lot of that information is used to give us ads. Of course, if you go on Google and you're searching for golf courses, don't wonder why and on Facebook you got golf courses or stuff like that appears in the ads. And personally, that a lot of people say, well, that's bad. Well, I don't think so. On the contrary, I'd rather have ads about something that is interesting to me than have ads about anything that is not interesting. But you know what? The government is a big player here in the security. I was reading, today the Congress is actually debating on something in the United States, the CISA Act. CISA is the Cyber Security Information Sharing Act. I mean, that is bad. That's bad stuff. That's bad stuff that is disguised into something called, oh, we'll all be secure thanks to that information we get. Look, the NSA got under fire last year about stealing everything, every data from everywhere, from everyone. You know what? That should not be. And you can bet one thing is that they've never came up front and said, oh, we have stopped this terrorist act because of the data that we captured while we were spying on all of you. They've never done that. They've never could say that. That means they're just stealing our data, and it's completely useless. Probably, first of all, because there's too much data. And second of all, you know what? I don't want to have my data. I don't think a government has the right to steal any information, personal information from me or anyone else without asking you. And of course, they don't want to ask you. It's easier to steal. The Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act is an act that what it would do basically is ask each company that detain information about cyber attacks to share that information with the government so that the government knows where the attacks come from and maybe can do something about it. That sounds nice at first. The problem with that is that it's just so open. There's like no restrictions on that act, meaning that the NSA could say, well, you could give us information on that guy, Gilles Letourneau in Montreal, that does these tech shows. We want to know what kind of guy that is, and maybe, find something about him that will mean he's uh, kind of crooked or somehow, or a terrorist somehow, because it's just too open. The good thing here, everybody jumps on Microsoft, everybody jumps on Google, but you know what? Google and Microsoft are the two first big companies that said, whoa, we don't want to participate in that type of sharing of information. So basically, it's kind of a war, but there's a lot of backers on that bill. And you know what? It's sad because nobody's, I have the impression nobody's taking part in any of these debates. The Congress takes part, but the average Joe using his computer doesn't participate in that debate, doesn't even know that today that is going on in Congress. If you like your security and if you are for your own security, I think it would be very, very important to, let your congressman or congresswoman know in the United States that you don't agree with that type of doing. The government is more and more spying on us, and nobody does nothing about it. And even worse, most people have no idea what exactly are they stealing or taking from us. And if you're of the type of person that just says, oh, well, I got nothing to hide, so I don't really care. And that's, why should I mind? Well, you should, because if you do something, an example, a very perfect example I use very often. I used to send out, I'm a big shortwave radio guy, and you know what? I used to send out letters to stations all around the world. But you know what? Some of the stations I sent letters to are from countries that are kind of off the chart, Iran, Syria, places like that don't have good, very good reputations. What stops someone that is spying on all of us from starting to look at me more personally because I receive a letter from Iran, say, and what can stop them from trying to find some kind of flaw where they could maybe use a law against me for some reason, and I'm totally innocent. I'm totally doing things right and doing nothing bad. That is the scary thing, because that happens. It happens in small scale. How many people got arrested for doing nothing, just being at the wrong place at the wrong time? That's what we have to be careful about. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that privacy that more and more we don't have. And the internet is really, really getting more and more checked at by all of these governments. And that's why a few weeks ago I talked about something called the Onion router, or the with the Tor browser, where you could go into the dark web, which is basically a much secure web, because governments don't like that dark web. It's encrypted. They can't see what's happening. So, hey, keep your eyes open. Make sure that, everybody checks to make sure that their own government isn't making bad decisions that can change everything. And, frankly, I've yet to have someone that says, because I saw what these people did on the internet, I stopped a terrorist act. I stopped maybe a bombing. Nobody came up with any of that yet. Oh, they did come up with information, but usually, you know what? That information, they already have it. Because when there's some kind of organization, there's always someone in there that's talking to the right people because they don't agree with what's happening. So anyways, let's hope that, things get better with that for sure. And that it's going to be, the best in our interests on shortwave. Hey, Jordan Aburn sent an email saying, are you being extradited to North Korea? Yeah, maybe they're watching me right now and it's like, okay, I'm going to go to the labor camps in North Korea. Welcome aboard live, Jordan Aburn. So let's start with some questions that we have. Questions about all sorts of little things that we're talking about. I got a lot of old questions, so I'm gonna, we're gonna activate stuff a little bit. So the first question comes from Tim Robertson. And by the way, once again, you are in the live show where I answer your technology question. You send your questions to helpwithyourcomputers@gmail.com. Any question doesn't have to be PC, Mac, or anything, as long as it's about technology, and we try to answer it. So Tim Robinson last week sent me a little question about blue screens, and he was talking about IRQs, and he says some time ago Windows would crash with a blue screen. Quite often it was an IRQ error or memory address or some other conflict. From what I can surmise, in the modern computers now utilize more resources, IRQs, etc. It's not long ago, IRQ 15 was a high and it would go. Now it is much higher. So what changed? Basically, what changed so that the IRQs, we don't have as many conflicts and stuff like that? First of all, IRQs are not as essential today as they were in the past. In the past, everything wanted to have an IRQ channel. For those that don't know what is IRQ, an IRQ is an interrupt request. It means that a chip or a hardware on your computer can actually access the CPU directly and say, hey, I'm here. I want to use the computer CPU time for something. And basically in the 90s, anyone that had DOS and started with the first versions of Windows, especially if you were a tech enthusiast, you'd play a lot with the hardware. At some point, we all had these weird things happening, IRQ conflicts that prevent some hardware, mainly sound cards and stuff like that, or sometimes the modem and the mouse would compete because of the IRQ for the COM ports, and you'd start the modem, the mouse would stop, stuff like that. First of all, these are less of a problem today because when plug and play appeared for Windows, that effectively fixed a lot of the conflicts that IRQs could have, because plug and play is very automated and it doesn't necessarily, in the past, there wasn't really a way. A modem, for example, would just interrupt and say, I want to have that space. Today, it's more intelligent. First of all, today's IRQs are much more monitored and checked, so it won't necessarily interrupt for something if it sees that there's data going on or there's an exchange going on. There's less and less of these problems today. And if there are, very often on most of our computers, we got nothing to do with it. Most of the time, it has to do with drivers that need to be written correctly. So sometimes you'll see things like IRQ request less than equal, stuff like that in blue screens in Windows, or you'd see memory address errors. And these are most of the time, simply bad drivers, and very often they get fixed when you update your drivers, because it gives you access to all of that, correctly. Because when the updated driver, what happens is the computer, the driver, or that hardware that uses that little driver knows better. And actually, very often drivers are updated because they fix problems like that type of problem, for example, with IRQs. So today, it's not much of a problem, but it can still happen. If you're a enthusiast that builds your own PCs, for example, you might run into some of these problems. And typically what you can do, you can either use the plug and play, and if there's some problem, you can, of course, go into the BIOS or on some machines, because less and less it's possible to tweak these settings. But you can go and play with the IRQ request and say, well, okay, I'm going to assign on this IRQ to this hardware to make sure that it doesn't have a conflict with something else. So these are things that are not as much important as before. But thing is, yes, it is possible that you had IRQ problems or some kind of access problem, but it was fixed because you had updates in Windows, updates in the drivers. It kind of fixed itself, basically. But it's not something we see very often now compared to the past. And another question Tim had, or a comment, he says, do you think Windows would benefit from running a live CD? I know it's possible to run Windows from a USB thumb drive, but it's hard to do for most people. Linux live CDs, as you say, doesn't make any changes to the system. Could Microsoft learn something from releasing live CD USB drive images? That would be nice. I think it would be really cool to have the possibility to very easily do a bootable USB with Windows. But the problem is probably in the structure of Windows, the way it's made, it's kind of complicated, maybe more complicated than Linux. But maybe not. It all depends on what Microsoft wants to do. The reason maybe why it's hard and there wouldn't be any use for Windows to, or it wouldn't easily do a live CD or DVD, is the way Windows works with the registry and all. It's kind of complex to have that working live, and especially have a boot up that would be fast enough if you just plug it into a new machine, because that's also the thing. You need the drivers that work with the new machine. It's not always easy. Linux works a little differently on how it actually will have the different components of your computer working. So very often it will be different in the way that it wants to access all of the hardware. So it probably is easier to have a live Linux CD DVD than it is for a Windows one. That's for sure. And another question, because we had, as I'm talking about this, we have Francois that is in France. And he asked the question about Linux and Linux live DVDs. And the questions he had was basically, what is Linux, first of all? Linux is an operating system. Like Windows is an operating system. Like OS 10 is an operating system. Basically, what happens is the general rule of Linux is a basic operating system. It was made by a guy, I hope I don't mess his name too much. It's Linus Torvald or something like that. And that guy wanted to have some kind of operating system free and that would work on PCs. And Linux came with that. And Linux has a very special license agreement. When you install Windows, when you install OS 10, the license agreement is depending on your usage, and you basically have to pay for a license and so on. Linux works differently. Linux is more in a license agreement that is free stuff. So it's free. But it also has implemented that if you know how to program and you make modifications that could help everybody in the community, you have to share it. It's in the license agreement. You make a driver for hardware that was not supported because you know how to program, You got to share it with the community. It's in the license agreement of Linux. Would you recommend this over Windows? Yes and no. I will not say I don't recommend Linux. What I will say is that it's more, I would say for the most people, it's a little difficult to work Linux, a little more difficult, but it depends what you do. You know, somebody that would just go on the web surfing and check email and nothing else, I think pretty much everybody could use Linux to do that. The Linux distros today are very, very good. It's pretty amazing when you look at you know, how they work today and how well made they are. How much easier they are to use than they were in the past. So you know, that's something that is interesting for that. So it depends what you do. Linux has you know, many advantages. It's very secure because of it's for the way it's actually done. In the layers of security, it's very secure because it's a very small number of computers out there also. So that's one thing that you must know. It pretty much lets you do whatever you want, like a Windows computer. But where it gets complicated is when you want to start adding software and stuff like that. The installers are not as easy, and it's not very, you have access, or you need to get access to command lines much more often than in Windows. That's where I'm not sure. But what's cool is that Linux is a great idea if you have a computer, an older computer lying around, and you want to use that computer for something, but you don't want to, it can't, you know, install, say you have a Windows XP computer, can't install the latest Windows 10 or Windows 7. Well, Linux could be a nice operating system that would make a Windows XP computer still good to do stuff on the internet, for example. So that's interesting for that. What's the best Linux out there? There's a lot of distros. Best is a big word. I wouldn't say best. It's like Linux distros are a little bit like Mac and PC people. Some people will swear that Mac OS 10 is better. Some will swear that Windows 10 is better. Some will swear that Ubuntu is good. Some will swear that Linux Mint is good, and so on. That's more of a personal thing. Some distros are truly a little better than others. I think Ubuntu is not bad. The problem with Ubuntu, it's become very bloated with the latest releases. So it's kind of a little heavy on the computer. The one that I liked the most when I checked a few of the distros was Linux Mint. I think that's a nice distro of Linux. It is lightweight, so it actually works well on most computers, even older computers. So that's for sure. As for links to Linux distributions that you ask, I will actually make on the channel a video of a few Linux distros, talk a little bit about it, and I'll post the links to Ubuntu, Linux Mint. Man, there's many others, but I have a lot that don't come to mind right now. So, by the way, it's fun to have the interaction here because like Amy Flanagan, which says also, well, Linux is actually the combination of two parts. GNU that was made by Stallman and its kernel, which is called Linux. So technically Linux is only the kernel. Yeah, that's true. I just wanted to simplify, but it's interesting to have the people interact like this. So yes, that is true, Amy. You are right with that. Linux Mint 17.2, and it's a great system and very easy to use, and it can be pretty familiar to Windows, depends on the distro. That's for sure. You know what? It's not that different actually, because most Linux distros have, you know, a kind of a start button, and it's easy to see that they've somehow copied a bit of the Windows environment and the graphical interface. So yeah, it's interesting to see that. So basically, Linux could be a great operating system. You know what? In my 16, 17 years of doing some tech, going to, see my clients, I can tell you that I've run to maybe 4 or 5 people that had Linux and did not tell me. So, including a few women that actually had Linux because their sons were kind of techie, and they said, "Oh, don't have a computer with Windows. I'm going to install you Linux, and it's going to work great." And basically, these people were very happy with the Linux they were using. So, it all depends. I think someone that never had a computer, and just you give it a computer with Linux Mint or Ubuntu, I'm sure they're really happy, and they do pretty much whatever they want with their computer, and go on the web and surf and get email and go on Twitter and Facebook. It works fine. And they're just going to be in a different world than a lot of people, but they're still going to be happy to have that computer running, basically. Another message here from, let's see if we're here, because I'm not sure. Okay, we have another message here from Tarek. And Tarek is in Alberta, Canada. So he asked a question about video card common problems, because he's had a few problems, and he wants to know, and I've decided to talk a little bit about the effects of graphic card problems when the driver is not right, not updated, etc. Okay, his question is more into, I got blue screens and sometimes artifacts in the video playback. So he gave me a screenshot, and I could see that in his VLC player. One screenshot has a blue. It's blue like this. It's only blue, but he does hear the sound. And in another video that he's played from a different file format, he sees the video with some weird little artifacts in the video, a little bit like a streaming video that would be bad. And I've seen that very often as a tech guy in the past years in clients' computers. Typically, most of the time, when you have a blue screen or artifacts in the video playback, your driver is not up to date. I would say that 9 out of 10 times that I've seen that type of problem, all I did was update the drivers to the video adapter or the graphics adapter, because there are new ways of dealing with the hardware. When you update Flash, for example, or when you update a video player, VLC, the down pot player, or so on, they will sometimes want to try to access the video card in new ways. And for that to work, the video card driver needs to be updated so it can understand what needs to be done to get and to send that information. So basically, what's going to happen is that you'll have blue screens, artifact, you'll have only audio and black screens, stuff like that. So update with the latest drivers on your graphics adapter. That will fix 9 out of 10 of these problems. If you update it and it still doesn't work, then it depends on the players. Each player has tweaks. What you could do is go into a player and check or uncheck the graphics acceleration. Sometimes that works. Now, I gotta warn you about one thing. If you remove the check mark for graphics or 3D acceleration, what's gonna happen is that the CPU of your computer is gonna do that work instead of the CPU or the GPU, which is a graphics processor. And that means your computer is gonna work a lot harder to do the same work. So sometimes removing the 3D acceleration will fix it, but will show sluggish graphics, sluggish videos with kind of frame by frame. You'll see weird movements like frame by frame stuff. So it depends. But you know what? Most of the time, graphics driver is very important. Of course, if you have an old graphics card, say you have a desktop and you have an old graphics adapter, that's something also that you might need to start thinking, okay, my desktop computer is a 5-year-old desktop. Maybe it's time to update with a new graphics adapter. You don't have to pay much for a graphics adapter. If you don't play games, a maximum $100 graphics adapter will be more than enough to do whatever you want and video playback and stuff like that. A little more if you're if you're a gamer, of course you'll pay more than 100 for the same for a card. And for video problems in games also that I've seen very often, crashing during games, maybe some very sluggish performance in games with a graphics adapter that's pretty powerful. Once again, make sure that you have the latest drivers. It's very important, especially there are some hardware that really peak and work fantastically well when they are updated all the time. So every graphics adapter should run typically the latest drivers that are available. Now, how do you find the drivers? It depends on what you have as a machine. If your machine's a brand machine, like I have a Toshiba laptop here, then I'll go to the Toshiba website and see if they have latest drivers. Or I know that my graphics card here is a Radeon 7600 or something like that, HD. And what I'll do is I'll go simply to the AMD website, because I know that AMD makes the Radeon chipset, so they'll have the latest drivers. And actually, I've updated the driver on my laptop, just after I installed Windows 10, because there were just brand new drivers specific for Windows 10 that came out from AMD on my case. So, it's important to check that, check the drivers. It's very, very, very important to check that. When you have video card playback problems, drivers are often the problem. But it does happen that sometimes it could be a setting in the Flash player if you are playing video on the web. Very often, Flash player is one of those problematic things that I really hope that gets removed someday from the computers around the world, because it's also a security problem very often. So hope that answers your question, my friend, and Tarek. And it's going to be cool to have your questions. If you have more of them, please let them come to our attention. So you're watching the live tech show, and this is every Tuesdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. That's 19 to 2100 hours UTC today. It will be 20 to 2200 hours UTC next week, since we are changing our time here in North America this Sunday. I've had several questions. One particularly from Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones says, question: recently, after Apple OS 9 update, my iPad reloads web pages continuously with this message. There was a problem, so this page reloaded. This happens so often, and now hate my iPad. How do I stop this from happening? Thank you. I watch your weekly show as well as other tech information you post on YouTube. You're very helpful to all of us normal non-tech computer users. Jerry in Georgia, USA. So, hey, Jerry, welcome. Thanks for the question. Okay, iOS 9. First of all, make sure that you've updated. We're at iOS 9.1. There were a lot of little issues in iOS 9 that weren't problematic to the point that it would crash iPads or iPhones, but enough of the problems to actually make I think it was a record set by Apple. I've never seen an update from iOS 9 to 9.1 go so fast. In iOS 8, it took much more time before we had iOS 8.1, if I'm not mistaken. Now, one thing you could try, first of all, make sure you've updated to the latest iOS version, 9.1, very important. And you know what? After you update it, check to see if it works well or not. Another thing that you might want to try, people don't often notice, but when you press your power button and you shut off, you're not shut off. What the iPad and the iPhone will do is save in memory the information of what you were doing, where the state of the machine, and it's just gonna, save that. So when you turn on your iPad or your iPhone, it will reload the same state it was in when you shut it off. So sometimes, and when I say sometimes, you know what? If I look at my iPad and my iPhone usage, once every 2-3 months, something will go weird, and I'm just gonna do a very simple thing. You know what? And you do this on your iPad also, you won't lose any information, but it is something that is very often very helpful in bringing an iPad or an iPhone back to a normal state when something goes wrong, even with Safari or any other app you're using. This will also fix, if you have crashing apps in an iPad or an iPhone, very often it fixes that problem. Simply press the power and home button, depending on the model of your iPad. It can be on the side, on the top, or iPhone. So power and home button hold together for as long as is required for it to shut down. You'll see it's going to really shut down. Once you see that it's shut down, press the power button to have it start over. And you'll see the little Apple logo here appear. And that Apple logo means that what you did was successful. That's a hard reset or a hard shutdown, basically. What it does is instead of saving your session and reloading with the same, it now just shut down and it's reloading. It's a bit like shutting down Windows or shutting down a Mac computer totally and then restarting. It doesn't reload all the stuff that was there in memory. It doesn't reload the state that it was in. It starts kind of a new session from scratch. And that fixes a lot of issues with iPad and iPhone. And I could bet that 75 to 80% of these problems are solved with that type of usage. And the last thing that I would do is make sure that all the pages on your Safari are shut down. You know what's hard on the Safari? When you're on Safari on an iPad or iPhone, sorry I don't have the iPad with me, but when you are on Safari, what happens is at the bottom right, you've got kind of a little bit of white squares that are stacked. This will show you all the pages that are open. So here I've got 2. And what you'll want to do is swipe them off to make sure that you close them. So you swipe them to the left side of your screen so that it brings you that little screen of icons with their little shortcuts. You want to go back there. Make sure that you close all the pages that were open because if you've got one page that wants to reload or do something and you have other pages open, it can cause some problems. So that's another thing you want to do. Make sure that you close. And observe where you go when it happens. It could be a specific page that does this. Maybe you haven't noticed, but there's a page that you visit that does this, but not the other ones. That could be an issue with the website and the browser in Safari. Safari browser on iPad and iPhone works pretty much with every device, with every website, most of the websites. But I have noticed that there are websites that have issues with Safari on iPads and iPhones. So that's something you can check for also and be careful. So hope I answer your question here, Jerry, in Georgia, USA. Another question that I got from, let's see here. So that's Jerry. Another question that I got from Limousia. I hope I I hope I pronounced your name right. I'm really sorry, but you know what? It's like my name. My name gets really massacred when I send stuff to people in English because they don't know how to pronounce my name, which is Gilles. Basically, okay, you're in India, and you said you have an iPhone, and battery drains very, very, very much with iOS 9. Okay, um, one of the things, what I just said about a hard reset, do that. That's the first thing you should do. Hold the power and home button until the phone's or your iPhone completely stops. From there, you will press the power button. You'll see the Apple logo show up. Try that. That's the first thing you need to know. Now, one of the things that you need to know is that everything that you have on. So if you have your iPhone, you'll see that you have when you swipe from the bottom up, the little screen, the settings screen here. And that screen will have a number of things that are important to know. First of all, check for the icons for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are they're really, really battery hogs. So that's for sure. You want to, if you don't use Bluetooth, turn it off. You don't need Wi-Fi, turn it off. Because the more you have these on, these are basically radios, and the more these are on, the more battery drain you have. Another thing, screen brightness. Screen brightness is extremely important for battery drain. You know what? I turned off my automatic brightness because I hate it. When I'm in a dark place, it gets really, really dark. And when I'm outside in the sun, it comes really bright. That's cool, but I hate it. And I've put a specific, I just set it at this level, and that's it. Try to put it at a manual level, like I did, basically. And on that manual level, what you'll want to do is set it as low as possible. That is okay for you when you're using your phone. Screen brightness is one hell of another battery hog. The more it's bright, the less you'll have batteries. So make sure that you have that set. And another thing about the starting with iOS 9, you have something now in iOS 9, and I'll try to, when you go into your settings and you go down to battery, there's a new switch in the battery section that's called low power mode. You might want to use the low power mode on your iPhone, because that will help you get more time out of your iPhone, that's for sure. So I hope I answered your question, and sorry if I really messed up your name there. So from India, that's really cool. Another thing here, another message about iOS. Sorry for those that are Windows only, but I want to answer pretty much every question I get. I've got Mark that is in Vancouver, BC, so a fellow Canadian. And he wants to know if you can go back to iOS 8 from his iPhone because he doesn't like iOS 9. He has a lot of issues with it, especially with some apps. Yes, you can, but what you'll have to do is plug your iPhone into a PC or a Mac computer and with iTunes and have it reset to factory default and prevent it from upgrading to iOS 9. You'll be able to go back to iOS 8. From a computer, but you need a computer to do this. You cannot do it from the phone itself. And also has a question about the Apple TV. The Apple TV, what I think of the new Apple TV, I want one, that's for sure. I've got the old Apple TV. You can't really see it here, but I've got a little black box. This is my Apple TV. This is the Apple TV 3, which is a little black cube. Basically, Apple TV is a kind of little set-top box that gives you online content. I use mine mostly for iTunes shows, like the Twit Network shows and stuff like that. Don't use it much more anymore. I used to use it a lot, but it's very restricted. What I don't like about the Apple TV is the restriction of what apps and things you do with it. But when you have an iPad or an iPhone, what's cool with the Apple TV is that you can stream from the iPhone directly to the Apple TV. And basically that is pretty cool because I can play games on my TV from my phone. So stuff like that. Like I have a flight simulator here. When I started, I play Flight Simulator on a 50-inch screen. All I do is control it here via the Apple TV, so it's really cool. The new Apple TV, what I like is that they're going to have an app store. This one does not. The 3 does not. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what we're going to do and, have specific games and stuff like that. But apart from that, there are other set-top boxes out there that are better and do a better job with content and usage of the web. So I think, unless you have a lot of Apple stuff, the new Apple TV is not necessarily the right box. It depends what you want to do. As I've said, it's kind of a little closed on itself, so it has specific apps, but we'll see. We'll see how the market goes with the Apple TV also, because with the new App Store and all, maybe it could become a much, much better place for content. So hope I answered the question about that. We have, just check here. Okay. We have Jonathan that is in Sacramento, California, that is asking me a question about cleaners, and especially his specific question is, I've seen many of your videos, and I've seen one where you talk about cleaners like CCleaners, and you don't like them. You think they don't do nothing, and I have to disagree. I use CCleaner, and I think it helps my computer. So I want to know if you've changed changed my idea about it, and basically really, it's telling me, did you really try CCleaner like every day? It really works wonders for my PC. So Jonathan, okay, look, I can tell you one thing about cleaners. CCleaner, I know, is the popular cleaner. I know everybody has that. I go to my clients and I see that my clients all have CCleaner, and it's just funny, CCleaner does probably from let's put it this way: of all the cleaners out there and the PC software that wants to help you keep your computer in a good state, I will say that CCleaner probably is the one that seems to work and do something on your computer. Okay, it does clean stuff. It does some interesting things. I don't use it, but from trying it out, because I made videos talking about it, I think of all the cleaners out there, it's probably the best one to get, and I don't think you should have anything else than CCleaner. What do I use? Nothing. I just, clean whatever myself, remove some folders, but I'm not big maniac of cleaners because I don't seem to really find that they do anything really. So that's pretty much what I think. Most cleaners I would stay away from. But you know what? A CCleaner doesn't seem to do anything bad, and it is, of all the cleaners, the one that I think is the safest. So I think that's something that we I think you can use CCleaner. And you know what? Like as a tech guy, I won't tell people not to use it. And when I go to a client and they have CCleaner and they ask my honest opinion, I'm going to tell them, well, I'm not sure it does really something right or interesting, but if you like it, you use it, and you're okay with it, it's fine. It's okay. Use CCleaner if you like it. And a lot of people tell me, well, my computer ran better after CCleaner. So I can see. Wow, this is hard to keep the headset on with this little prison cell. So from my gel cell, this is my gel cell. That sounds like a battery, those lead acid batteries. That's what a tech guy thinks when he hears a jail cell instead of prison. Okay, so you're watching the live computer show. It's from 3 to 5 p.m. each Tuesdays, and we're already 55 minutes into the show. And you know what? I've trying to go faster because I have tons of questions from a lot of people. Another question. Another question here is how to delete multiple emails with one click in Windows 10 out the Mail app. I don't know if okay, this is the other questions. I think I'm not sure I did it in order, but we'll see. So Mail app, yeah. When you go into your Mail app, basically to delete multiple mails. Now, Mail app is nice, has nice features, but is missing nice features also. So one of the things I want to say is if you are using the Mail app, the best way to remove multiple emails is to hold down the Control key, CTRL key, in the bottom left of your keyboard. And while holding down the key, you will click on each email that you have on the list. So hold the Control key. Unfortunately, and I don't know why, the Control A for Control All does not work in Mail. And that's sad because that would be a hell of a very easy way to remove everything. So the only thing I could see right now is hold down the Control key, click on each emails, and then click the trash can delete button, which will delete selected items on the top. And that's how you will delete all the emails in one shot, all the emails that you've selected. You can also click on the right side there when you have the list of emails, where you'll have the possibility to put check marks in front of each emails. So that's pretty much the only way I've seen, basically. Sorry. I've still a little bit hair is dry, so I'm talking a lot. So it's nice to have you on board, everyone. I see the emails are really arriving at a fast pace. Before we move on to old questions, still old questions, let's see. Abu Jawad says, hi, thanks for this great show. Why I must sign in order to use Office 2016? I want to use Office 2016 without login. I am talking about Office 2016, not 365. Thanks. Yeah, that's because it will activate features of Office. It will activate your OneDrive that you can use for storage of your files and stuff like that. It is a new way of integrating Office on your with your Microsoft services. So that's why they want you to sign in to an account using Office 2016. Thing is, I understand that for some people it's annoying and they don't want to, necessarily sign into a Microsoft account just to use Microsoft Office. But I'm not sure, but I don't think there's any way around this. I think Microsoft Office started with 2013, the 2013 version. You have to log in into your account. But you know what? It is useful because it will let you, use your OneDrive, where you can actually, you have 7 gigs, depending on where you are, from 7 to 15 gigs of storage free that comes with it. So at least you can store stuff online if you're doing work. And the OneDrive is fun because also it gives you access to your stuff from another computer if you ever need your files and folders. But it is really to kind of push everyone to the Microsoft services, basically. That's the thing. So I'm going to answer 2 questions about Windows 10 Fall Update. Here we have a question that arrived today from Sayu Joe. Sayu Joe is asking me, will Microsoft Edge have add-ons after the fall update? By the way, I was in Montreal last year. Downtown is amazing. Yeah, Montreal is a great city. If anyone comes to Montreal, it's really, really a super, super city to be on. Okay, another question. So that's one from you, Sayu Joe. Welcome aboard. It's nice to have you live. We also have Carol, that is in Florida, Tampa Bay, Florida. Carol also asks me, and this one is an old question, so I've got a new and old question at the same time. That's cool. About the Windows Fall Update. The questions he had are basically, when will it arrive? No date yet. We know it's in November. A lot of people have been speculating about November 2nd. But you know what? I just checked. This is my, for those that wondered, my insider preview machine. Before the show started, and I checked for a insider preview update just to see if by any chances there was an insider preview. You never know. There was nothing yet. Thing is, no insider preview yet. I don't think it's coming next week, because the final fall update, or what we used to call Threshold 2, is going to be sent to insiders before anybody else. So since I don't have it as an insider now, I don't think it's coming next week. I think we'll have it there before we'll have it in November. Now, I wouldn't be surprised that if you're an insider and we get an insider preview, that will be the final version of the fall update. So it's in November. That's the only thing we know, and we had confirmation from Gabriel Hall of Microsoft on his Twitter feed that it's still supposed to be November, so we'll check that. As for the question of Sayu Joe, Microsoft Edge will have add-ons after the fall update? No. That's the news we had last week. We had some sad news last week about that. Unfortunately, no add-ons for Edge for the fall update. And you know what? That's sad, because a lot of people were waiting for the fall update to use Edge for that possibility of getting basically the add-ons for Edge. And that's the thing, is no add-ons on this fall update, unfortunately. So I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen this time around. So, that's basically what's going to happen. What will be new? What will be new? We know that Edge will, even though add-ons are not there, will have a number of improvements. I've already seen some of these on the insider preview. It will also have integrated Skype, which is something we don't have yet, but there's going to be integrated Skype across Windows 10. That means that insider preview, and the fall update, when it rolls to everyone, everybody is going to have the possibility to do some Skype messaging. And the reason why is because it's going to be a little bit like FaceTime. If you have an iPhone or an iPad, FaceTime, same thing. It's going to be an universal messaging app, video calling app. So you won't even have to get a account. You don't have a Skype account, it doesn't matter. You don't need it to use that universal Skype app there. So that's the good thing. Also, what you'll have is, of course, all the apps, all the major apps, the universal apps, including mail, calendar, and everything else that's, universal, Groove Music, all of that will have brand new interfaces, brand new apps. The store will also be in a new version, and so everything is improving pretty much all the time on that. Another thing that's really nice, and I think that's a good thing because people are going a little crazy. There's still people having problems with activation in Windows 10, and I think that's going to fix a lot of it. When you install with that new update, you'll now be able, when it asks you for a product key, to enter your Windows 7 or Windows 8.1 product key, and it will know that it's a valid key and actually activate with the product key. So I think that's a nice thing. And basically, is it now time to upgrade to Windows 10? That's a question I get a lot. As a tech guy, I think it's any time is time to upgrade to Windows 10. If you've been thinking about it seriously, go ahead, jump on the bandwagon. But we know that it's going to fix a lot of issues and a lot of problems. So I think that if you were waiting to see if it would, maybe work better or have better usability if you upgrade, yeah, it's possible that it is going to be something helpful. And I think, fall update will be a great time to upgrade to Windows 10. Yes, I'm pretty sure it will be a good time to upgrade for the Windows 10. So these are the questions that I've been answering here. Let's now check out other little details, other questions. What do you have here? We have, of course, the old questions and the new questions. And the old questions. So mail app question, deleting emails is one of the questions I answered. I hope, Jerry, that you had it fine. Another question, how to add a pop mail account and mail. It's quite easy. So all you have to do is go into your mail app, which will usually have already a first mail account. And on the left side, you got accounts. You can click there on accounts. And on the right side, there's going to be a charms, kind of a charms bar like thing that's going to appear. You click add account. Here, it's going to ask you what type of account. All you have to do is go down to the bottom of the list. You'll have other account, POP or IMAP. You'll click that, and there it's going to ask you what you want to do with that account, what type of account. You'll have to there's some kind of automation, but you might need to enter your POP and SMTP mail servers manually in there. Just follow the instructions on how it works, and that's how you do it. So once again, you go into your mail. On the left side, you'll see accounts. It's going to open a panel on the right side. You go into add accounts. Here, you'll go into the bottom of the list. You'll see other accounts, POP, IMAP. Click here and just follow the instructions. Typically, it shouldn't be too complex. And this is a great thing that they've added POP mail accounts in Windows 10. A lot of people were complaining no POP mail, basically. And what do I think of mail in Windows 10? I think it's nice. You know what? I like mail much more than any other mail app that I've used that is made by Microsoft. I think of Windows Live Mail that was in Windows 7. I think of what else? Outlook Express and Windows XP. All of these, you know what? I think these are great. It's a great app. I think it's a nice app. It's getting better all the time also. So that's what's nice also about this app. Now it has new backgrounds. It has the new dark theme, light theme. It has more and more features as we're going through the different updates and upgrades of Windows 10. So I think that's cool to check for that. So hope I answered the questions here. Let's see, overclocking. We'll get to this as a little later in a few seconds. We are at overclocking and the old questions. We're going to go into the new questions. Wow, there's a million questions coming through. So it's very, very nice. So Tim Robinson has a nice little comment here. It says, prisoner 881688 is appearing to the court via live feed. Yep, that's what's happening. I am now in court, and you are all going. You're the jury. You're going to have to tell me if I am or not a if I did or not murder whatever. Amy Flanagan, in one of the new posts at today, I agree the American government is one of the countries that is going completely crazy about collecting information. And I think we can be quite sure it's quite extensive data collection they want to take from us. Emails, video messages, and others. It's completely ridiculous. I think we still remember the published reposts. They even spied on the European leaders like Merkel. Nice allies. And if I don't do anything, I still treasure my privacy. Why would I want people sniffing into my privacy and the usual stuff I do, even if it's small in comparison to others? I just like having some control. And you are right that people should speak more about it. Usual people. I don't believe people are okay with their private lives being completely open. Great point. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, you know, as I was saying at the beginning of the show, we really, really, really need to talk to our governments. Everybody should talk to our governments about, you know, our privacy issues. It is important. You know, we have a right to be private, to have a private life. You know, and the U.S. government is one of the governments that's really going crazy on that. But you know what? Here we just changed government in Canada. We're now back in the liberal government, but we used to have a conservative government just before. And that government was going crazy. It was essentially starting to do and take measures to spy on everybody, just like the U.S. And I mean, I didn't like that. You know, it's crazy. We are at a point where I understand we live in a dangerous world. I understand we need to have the possibility to maybe, you know, be secure. But at the same time, I want my privacy. I want to be able to do whatever I want without anybody spying on me. I think that's, you know, a little crazy here. Got to be careful with that. So, here goes. We will take another new question before I go back to old questions, because at the pace of questions right now, it's incredible. I just have so many questions that it's hard to answer everything. So, by the way, if you want to have your questions answered, if not today, in the next show, send me an email at helpwithyourcomputers@gmail.com. helpwithyourcomputers@gmail.com. Tim Robinson says, as always, I'm keen to get Android upgrades, but I'm always left deflated when that eventually happens. It is never anything spectacular. However, a lot of people seem to be getting excited about the jump to Marshmallow from Lollipop. Aside from having updated kernels, patches, and an occasional mediocre new feature, I don't see anything new coming to mobile phones that is exciting. I know you're an iPhone user, and in essence, we're all in the same boat with regards to what our phones do and can do. I can't think of anything without major tech advances that would make a mobile phone exciting again. Is there room for further advancements in mobile phone tech? Thanks, Jill. Hey, Tim. Great question. You know what? It's not just an Android thing. I have zero excitement going from iOS 8 to iOS 9 on my iPhone. Zero. I don't see anything that is exciting in there. And it is sad. You know, I found something exciting this year. Going to Windows 10 was exciting. And a lot of you tell me, oh, going to Windows 10 was exciting. That's cool. But I don't see much people saying, hey, going from iOS 8 to 9 was exciting, or going from Lollipop, which was version 5, to Marshmallow, version 6 of Android, exciting. On a lot of the tech shows that I've seen where they talk about Android, and by the way, you know what? I have an iPhone, but I am trying to find myself an Android box that has both Lollipop and Marshmallow that I can hook up to my TV here, because I have an Android box here that's running KitKat 4.4. And, you know, I just love it. And because I do have an Android channel that I'd like to make a lot of videos about and talk about the features and so on, I'm looking for boxes that will have both Lollipop and Marshmallow. And also I'll be able to talk a little more about that. But one thing that I do see and is the fact that it does seem that a lot of people like Marshmallow. It seems to be a very nicely improved version of Android. And so I don't know, because I haven't tried it and I haven't seen it on any of the phones that my friends have. So I can't talk too much about it. But in the basics of what you say, it is true that we are really getting to a point where I don't care whatever iOS version I have in here. It's just dull. You know, you go from, I went to iOS 8 to 9, and I looked at my phone, played with it for 15 minutes, did a few videos to explain some of the features. But basically, I've got a faceplate of an iPhone with icons and not a lot of fantastic stuff. Okay, I do like the fact that here I have a new panel here that gives me like the latest news, stuff like that that I didn't have before, but that Android already had anyways. You know, what would be a new improvement? I think it has to be more than just the operating system. I think the only improvements that are going to be exciting now, because we all, you know, when the iPhone started all of that, and basically the first smartphone was not an iPhone, but the iPhone started the iPhone market, the smartphone market, basically. It was exciting, was new. We went from our flip phones to something that was so cool, and it's a little computer in our hands. I think the excitement, you'll have to get it more, first of all, in the apps that you can install. Go into the Google Play Store or go into the you know, the App Store of the iPhone, and these are more where you'll get the excitement, because you'll get apps that do stuff that are cool, that are what you want. Where it might be more exciting is when your iPhone will have, or your Android phone will give you maybe possibilities. What I would like, possibility of just having this in my pocket, shirt pocket, going to, I don't know, let's say I'm going to the movies, and without having to take it out of my pocket and put it on some terminal or whatever, you know what, have a little pop-up, say, hey, you're at the movies, want 2 tickets for something? And you just like, oh, this, pop, and you just go in, and you don't have to buy that paper ticket, stuff like that. You know, I don't know, something cool that's very modern. Some kind of sliding door. You know, you just get your phone next to the door. It senses you've got 2 tickets to that event. It just opens the door. Nobody dare to check your tickets. that would be exciting. Some features like that make the interaction with the world much more a fun experience. That's what's missing here. Oh, it's cool. You got mobile payments. It's cool. I do buy my tickets to go to the movies here, and got the little scan, the little barcode that you just put under the scan, and you get your tickets. That's cool, but it would be even better if I just have a terminal. At least have a terminal, and you know what? You get to a door. It's like, oh, I want to see Mad Max or that new Mars movie, and just okay, put on the terminal. At least put on the terminal. It's like, okay, I just bought 2 tickets. I didn't have to go online. Didn't have to do things. Of course, you'll need security to make sure that not everybody can buy stuff with your phone. But I don't know. That is something that is an interesting question. What's new that a phone can do that will make it exciting again? The only excitement I get was when I changed my iPhone for a newer iPhone. It's faster, it's interesting, got a few new features. But inside the phone, like you say, Tim, upgrading, I don't know. I'm not don't find that as fun, basically. That's mostly it, mostly it. So as Amy Flanagan just sent, says the most used phones are Android phones and iPhones, and then Windows phones, but there are other phones as well. Ubuntu phones are one of them. How much do you think they have a chance getting into the bigger business as others? Can Ubuntu become a more spread system? Very hard. Look at Microsoft. Just look at Microsoft with their Lumia phones. They are amazing phones. The Lumia 950 XL as one of the, if not the best camera in a phone. It's just amazing. It has, and everybody agrees that the Windows operating system or ecosystem in a Windows phone is great. Nobody buys them. Nobody wants a Windows phone. I'd take one, but nobody technically really wants a Windows phone. And it's a little sad to see that. And you know what? If you can see that a big player like Microsoft is unable to get a market share, I can't see in the future much competition there. We're going to be stuck in a world where iPhones and Android phones are going to be competing together. And there's going to be others, but unless one phone has a killer feature that nobody has and everybody wants to have, I don't think we're going to have much about these phones, much chance about these Ubuntu phones or whatever other phone of becoming something important. It's very just look at how of course there was lack of vision, but just here BlackBerry in Canada. BlackBerry was like that big company in Canada that was really cool. Everybody wanted a BlackBerry phone. Nobody wants a BlackBerry phone today. In part because there's a lack of vision on the part of BlackBerry, and they didn't see it coming. They didn't understand that the next big thing would be a phone that truly is fantastic and has a touch screen and everything. It's just sad to see that. It's going to be complicated. I think it's going to be really complicated for any small player to really do a phone that everybody wants. And more because of the big players that are technically taking over the market. iPhones and Android, are probably like 90% of the phone market together. It's amazing, So, you are watching the live tech show from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. This is every Tuesdays, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, North America. That will be starting next week, of course, in Universal Time, 20 to 2200 hours UTC. It's 2 hours. We sometimes go overboard a little bit, of course. That's cool. James Capel has nice little questions about overclocking. What is overclocking? Well, overclocking is simply taking a computer and running it faster than it's supposed to run. So, for example, everybody noticed that when you bought your computer or when you look at your computer's information, it tells you, oh, it's running at 2.4 gigahertz. Well, overclocking is basically you're taking that computer and you're saying, oh, instead of 2.4, I want to run it at 3, even though it was designed for 2.4 gigahertz maximum speed. So that's overclocking and the basic knowledge of what is overclocking. Other question is this something to avoid? Here's the thing. Overclocking is a kind of a tech enthusiast thing. I don't think anybody in his right mind should ever overclock a computer or any hardware because it does strain the hardware a lot. So when you overclock, basically you are running your computer faster than it is supposed and designed to. It generates more heat. And it typically is not made for it. So overclockers, the people that want to really drive their computers at an amazing speed, what's going to happen is they're going to add stuff, cooling units. They'll have some liquid cooling stuff. They'll have, and it's something that some tech enthusiasts like doing, seeing how fast a computer can go. How can I overclock? What's the fastest speed that a processor can go before it just goes berserk? Can it affect the lifespan of such as early fatigue? Oh yeah, that's for sure, because it generates more heat. Because it generates more heat, it of course will last. It will not last as long as it would usually. Does the machine overheat? Yes. So usually when you overclock, you'll want to have better cooling. It has to compensate somehow. Is it expensive? It's the same price, basically. What's expensive is maybe the cooling system that you have to add and stuff like that. Typically, most people that overclock will overclock desktop computers that are made for that. Basically, to overclock, you need to go and access the settings that tell the computer clock what speed it's running. And not most computers have these settings locked. If you go into your laptop and you try to overclock, it's going to show you a page. This laptop goes at this speed. It doesn't go faster than that. So and there's nothing you can do about it. Upside, downside. Upside is typically if you overclock, you have a faster computer. Downside, it requires a lot of cooling. Will maybe make your computer, life expectancy go down, so it won't last as long. One thing about the overclocking also is the fact that it requires, of course, hardware that you can overclock. That's for sure. I wanted to say something else that just left my mind. Can I overclock appliances like microwave? Technically, if you are a little electronic whiz, yeah, technically you could overclock a microwave, or anything that has a processor can technically be overclocked, because every computer processor works with a clock timing. And basically what you'll do is you'll overclock So you'll give the timing, make faster timing for the CPU. You can also overclock things like the memory. Sometimes people will overclock the processor and the RAM, because usually you have to for a synchronization so it works well. Is overclocking for personal computers or Macs? That's mostly a PC thing, because basically you can buy a PC with a motherboard that is made for overclockers that you can manually change, easily change the settings for the speed and stuff like that. So that's pretty much it. I don't know if you're asking these questions because you want to do it yourself. One of the things I have to warn also is that you got to be careful about the overclock. People tend to think that if you overclock, say you've successfully overclocked your computer from 2 to 4 gigahertz, you'll say, oh, it's 2 times faster. No, the clock speed is 2 times faster. The computer itself might be 20% faster. It's not like that. And there are a lot of things that can be overclocked. Processor, memory, GPUs, graphic cards. I remember I used to have a graphic card, a Radeon graphic card, that I could go into a program and tell the graphics card, oh, instead of running at 500 megahertz, 500 megahertz clock speed, go to 550. And then I would run a game with the frame rate and see if it affects the frame rate. And of course, you'd see the frame rate go up. So if that game would go at 50 frames per second, then I'd see, oh, it's going at 65 frames a second. And you would put a little more, and then you'd see, oh, I'm going at 70 frames a second. But then you'd start seeing artifacts or little weird pixels appear everywhere because it's going too fast. It can't handle it. I'd play the game at 70 frames per second for a card that's supposed to go at 40 frames per second, and it would crash the computer. Stuff like that. So hope I answered your question, my friend. James Keppel, nice to have you on board. We have a lot of questions, so we'll try to go as fast as possible. We have Gary O'Toole, love your tech show each Tuesday. My question is, how do you delete multiple emails? Okay, that one I answered, sorry. Gary O'Toole, that's what I answered a little earlier. So we talked about overclocking, Wi-Fi. We have William in England, in the UK. William says he's got Wi-Fi and he wants to know what Wi-Fi distance he can do and how he can improve the signal of the Wi-Fi in his home, and he'd like to understand the basics of Wi-Fi. In a video I did last week, because that's in after a video that I did last week, he has this question. I did a video about an app called Wi-Fi Monitor for Windows, and it actually tells you the Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi signal and everything, and what channel you should use, and it's very useful because that's something that can help you understand what you need to do to improve, the distance of your Wi-Fi connection, for example. Now, what are the good things to do on a Wi-Fi for distance? Remember, Wi-Fi, a router is a transmitter and a receiver. It's a radio. Very simple like that. A router, a Wi-Fi router, okay? The basic of the router is like a switch, sharing computers together. But the Wi-Fi part is really a radio. It's a transmitter and a receiver. So think about positioning the Wi-Fi router centrally in your home. The biggest problem I get with people when clients that I had that had Wi-Fi problems, the biggest problems were the router is at one end of the house, and basically the person wants to use her computer in her living room or in her bedroom and it's at the other end of the house. That's not good. Another thing that I've seen, people install the router in the basement because they don't want to see the wires and the box, but they go to their third floor in their bedroom and say, well, there's no Wi-Fi or it's very weak. That's the thing. You have to install your Wi-Fi in the central place of the house as if possible. That's the best you can do. If you have it central, usually works pretty well pretty much everywhere in a home, even if you have a big home. Bad things to do. Put it in a corner somewhere. Put it on the floor. Don't extend the antennas because you just find it ugly. These are bad things you can do. Also, make sure that you understand a little bit about, how to change the channels. Stuff like that could be useful to know. Are some routers better than others? Yes, of course. Routers are typically, some routers are much better than others at giving you good signals and distance. What I recommend when someone wants to buy a router and have the maximum distance, two things. Always buy a router that has the latest technology, because right now we are in the AC world of the Wi-Fi. We had N. So we first started with A, then B, then we had G, then N, and now we're AC. These are the different speeds and the different protocols that we have for Wi-Fi. AC is the latest, and technically it should give you the biggest distance. So if you have to buy a router, make sure it's an AC router. Make sure it has the new protocol. Now, make sure also that it has antennas. It's very cool. They sell these routers. I've seen Linksys routers that have this little box with no antennas because the antennas are inside. Well, it's not going to be as good as a router that has antennas. Another thing, most of the time, not always, but most of the time, a router that has many antennas will be better, because it will have separate antennas for sending, receiving. Dual band also is nice. They have 5 and 2.4 gigahertz. That can be very helpful. So these are things to check for in routers. Finally, Wi-Fi extenders. William does ask about this. Can I use a Wi-Fi extender to go into, he says he wants to go into his backyard as far as possible, everywhere I have Wi-Fi. Yeah, you can buy a Wi-Fi extender or a repeater that usually what it does, it takes the signal from your Wi-Fi and re-emits it on a different frequency to make it go farther away. It is something that is useful, but the Wi-Fi extenders, most of the time, the biggest problem is that if you don't buy the same brand, say you have a Linksys router, it's almost better to buy a Linksys Wi-Fi extender because they'll talk together better. I don't know how many times I've had difficulty in matching Wi-Fi extenders that just weren't the same brand. And overall, you know what, if I would extend my Wi-Fi, I'm not sure I'd use an extender. I'd try to find a way to extend it from the main router, because you can have a lot of disconnects when you actually try to use extenders and stuff like that. So that's the first thing that you need to know about Wi-Fi distance. Wi-Fi speeds that William also asks. William, well, you know what? He says that his PC connection is slower than advertised. And he gives me his example where his router is stated for 450 megabits per second at N connection. And when you look at the connection in Windows, it says he's at 130 megabits per second. So he says, what gives? And he says it has the same speed even if when he's very close to the router. Yeah, that is, you know what, that number on the routers of you'll get 450 megabits per second on Wi-Fi, that's kind of false advertisement, and it's really, really something that I think should be cleaned up, because it is really false advertisement. My Linksys router that I have here is stated for 300 megabits per second, and I rarely go above. I'd say most of the time, my PC says 74 megabits per second, something like that. And I rarely go at sometimes I am 130 megabits, but I never go higher than that. You know what? That's the thing about routers, is that in the best of both worlds with the same chipset, because you got to understand that Wi-Fi has different chipsets. So each chipset, the one in your computer, the one in the router, they all have their way of connecting, and they don't always talk together very well. So that affects the speed, first of all. So your computer might have a different chipset and it doesn't connect correctly. It might say, yeah, you'll get 450 megabits per second if you have the same chipset exactly. So that would mean that you need to have two exact same chipsets for it to do. The other thing, lots of interference. Your computer's generating interference. Everything in your home, the TV's generating interference. What does it do? It's simple. It does simply lower the speed at which your computer and router connect, because it's noisy in the environment. So it can't negotiate for the best speed going to 450. It stops at a certain point when it works well. So, that's something that is almost impossible to get. So it's very important to know that it's almost impossible to go to this speed. Can I improve this connection speed? Update the drivers, and in the router, make sure that you have all of the latest technology on. So I mean, many routers will give you, for example, inside the menu of the router, the speed will be written as, for example, the information of the protocol for it, like N. And it's going to say, oh, well, this router can also have and connect with people that are on specific protocols. So, and also with G or a B. So very often routers want to be able to downgrade to older technology like G and B. That you want to turn it off. If you have technology that works with N, for example, make sure your router's on N and just block it so it doesn't connect to anything else than N. That will make sure that you have the fastest speed. The number of connections that are done with the router will influence. It's your router. It doesn't show, but your router is connected to a million things. Right now, just to give you an example, my router is connected to my iPhone, to my Mac, to my PC sending this stream. It's connected to my TV. It's connected. What else do I have that would be connected on it? It's connected probably to my internet Wi-Fi radio, because these things want to connect with it. My iPad is probably connected on it. So there's a lot of connections going on. That will slow down also on the connection speed. And N versus AC. AC is much better. I think a good AC router is probably very, very good and much better than N for speed and for performance. You are watching the Live Tech Show. It's October 27, 2015. This is every Tuesday, 3 to 5 p.m. It's nice to have you there. I'm a prisoner because it's Halloween. And of course, I am here from my prison cell. So hope you enjoy the show. You can send me your questions at helpwithyourcomputers@gmail.com. They're always welcome. I won't have time to answer all the questions today because there's just too many. We'll really go and focus on the old questions. And even the old questions, I'll probably have to answer some of them next week. So sorry if I didn't really do anything to answer your question today. I just had too many questions, and you know what? When I talk about subject, it just goes on and on so fast. So we have Andrew Bouhet that was talking. I remember last week, Handy, that he was able to clean most of the malware that he was talking about that he had, but he still has some programs, and it says that that he went to programs, uninstall, and found icons, clicked uninstall, didn't uninstall, then went to apps and features, found the icon, clicked uninstall. So basically, he's been able to uninstall most of the malware that he had, but he still has some stuff left behind, as he was mentioning in another message. And he says, I thought that I got rid of all browser error, but there are 9 icons left in the default apps. I found them by viewing in protocol. They are marked as HTML documents, and I haven't found a way to uninstall them. I hope you can help to remove them without going far into the computer. So far, I've been lucky. I didn't mess up my computer. Thank you, Andy in Montreal. So Andy, basically what you'll want to do here, because from what you're telling me, you're not infected anymore, but you have all of these traces of the virus here and there. So what you'll want to do basically is go into your File Explorer. And when you're in the File Explorer in Windows, make sure that you activate the hidden files and folders. And on the upper right, you have the search. Search for everything that you've seen that's left behind and delete it. So just search for, you don't have to put the full name, but at least part of the name, and delete it. And you'll be able to delete pretty much everything from that are left behind. But you know what? If you don't have any signs of infection, I think you're pretty good in what is happening on your computer, and you've done a good job. And so, it is nice, when you are able to remove malware from your, by yourself without having to get a tech guy or anything. It's always really cool because, you have this sense of accomplishment. I don't know how many times my clients tell me, oh man, you're just so lucky to, be good like that and help us with our computers. And it's like, everybody can do it. It's just, you have to take the time to do it. That's very important. So for those that think it's a little dark, I have a light over there that burned out while I was doing the show. It's really nice. It had to happen during the show, and that's really cool. Because if you notice that from the beginning of the show into the end, I am in darkness, or almost. So I'm not going to lose time in fixing that today. It's going to be fixed for next week. Okay. Jim Maley. Jim says, love your show. I like the new Surface Book and would like to purchase it, but I hesitate to buy the first generation. Wondering how long it would be till they come out with the second generation of Surface Book. Do you think it may come out in the spring of 2016? If it would be available in 6 months or so, I would keep my old MacBook Air a little longer. Thanks. We don't really know when the next Surface Book is going to come out, the second generation. One thing for sure, every review of the Surface Book that I've seen, people are just raving how wonderful it is. So, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't wait that long. Where I would wait for the Surface Book is on firmware updates, because there's firmware updates in the Surface Book. And I know that a few people, including Paul Tarot, were mentioning that there are a few glitches, and that Microsoft said, oh yeah, well, with firmware updates, these glitches are going to be gone. So maybe not buy it now. If you can wait, wait till the spring and see, first of all, if all the glitches are gone and it works fine, and you'll have also more information. We can't talk about the Surface Book that much because it just came out. And the Surface Book, even though it looks nice, even though everybody, raves about it, one of the things we don't know is after 3 months or 6 months, how well does it go? How is there like bigger glitches that we don't know yet? So that's more what I would wait for. Personally, I would not hesitate to buy the first generation. It does seem like a great product. So, wait a little bit and we'll see. And who knows when the next Surface Book will come out, the second generation Surface Book. But I would, I don't know. The Surface Book is very expensive, so I would tend to think that there might not be new Surface Book 2 before at least a year. One thing also to look for, because from what they announced and now what's available, there are a few new models that appeared in between. So it means that there could be some different models appearing of the Surface Book in the coming months also that might interest you. So take a look at that and hope that you can wait for a Surface Book. From all the reviews I've seen, it looks like a fantastic machine and will probably be a great machine to replace a MacBook Air. What else do we have here? Stephen Mail. Stephen Mail says, all of a sudden one morning I woke up, put on the PC, and the next thing was getting app notifications from apps I had previously turned off. This was happened a couple of times on 2 different computers. This may have been after an update. Have you heard of this happening? I'm not a big fan of notifications unless they have to do with the operation of PC, malware, virus, solution, stuff like that. Thanks. Keep up great videos. Steve Mail. Okay. You say that you have at least 2 PCs. So one of the first things you should check for, make sure that the settings for notifications are the same on both, because there is synchronization in Windows 10 between machines of the internal settings. So it means that if on one computer it was set at on for the notifications, the other computer at off, they might have synchronized at on. That's a possibility. Second of all, it is possible that notifications might have been turned on after some updates, because a lot of apps have updates. You know what? When we have the cumulative updates, it's not just updates for problems in Windows. It's updates for apps, updates of features. So it could be possible that there are some features that were simply updated with and turned back on when there was an update. I wouldn't be surprised. And you know what? The notifications in my Windows 10 have been rather strange in their behavior, basically. I've noticed that the notifications in my Windows 10, sometimes I do have notifications of an app, not another. I've noticed that my tablet, my laptop, and my Insider Preview seem to not really give me notifications of the same things. It seems a little weird here, and you know what? I would bet that we should maybe just wait until the fall update, and maybe that will kind of synchronize and be better. So maybe fall update will bring us to something more interesting with that. So we are almost 2 hours away into the show. We'll have a few more questions and then we'll call it for today, as we're getting near the end of our tech show today. Steve Martin, here's one question that needs to be answered. I'm sure many have this problem both on Windows 7 and 8.1. I have not reserved Windows 10 on 2 of my computers, but I am getting Windows 10 downloads in my updates. I keep putting them in the hidden updates area, but they still keep coming and I can't find a way of getting rid of them. How do you delete these downloads in the restore hidden updates? Steve Martin, Milton, Ontario, Canada. Yeah. Steve, I looked at different options. There are some registry tweaks. There's a tool in the Microsoft website, but from everything that I've read, these annoying updates, because they must be annoying for somebody like you. I get people on my channel that tell me that they are on Windows 8.1. They get the downloads for Windows 10, even though they did not ask for it. It's sad, but it is something that there's not a lot you can do right now. I think Microsoft should not do that. I think Microsoft should even issue something to at least prevent it from happening on Windows 7 and Windows 8.1. The best that I could do is I'll be checking some of the options that I've seen on the web and post a video with the different options that are available, because there are a lot of they're kind of complex and very hard to explain, basically. So that's pretty much what we're going to do with that on this update. It's really sad because a lot of people are annoyed at the fact that Microsoft's pushing all of that, for sure. Sean Robinson, hello. Thank you for great videos that you have been posting this week on your YouTube channel. This week, they have been very helpful. Since doing a fresh clean install of Windows 10, as you suggested, my laptop has been working a lot better, and I have had no dropping of my Wi-Fi connections. Today, I was wondering, how will I know how much data usage a YouTube video uses on my Wi-Fi connection at home, as I am a monthly allowance of 180 gigs a month? Thanks. Well, you know what? Even if you watch, say you watch the 2 hours of the show here every week, a 2-hour show with the stream, if you put the stream at the max quality, which I believe with this camera is 720p, 2 hours will maybe run you about a gig and a half of data. Now, if you want to know how much data, the best thing you could do, I'm pretty sure that your internet service provider has a web page that you can log in with your account information, and there must be a counter there. Every internet service providers that I've seen all have counters on the website. All you have to do is just go into set up your account there and check it out. Apart from that, what you could do is in Windows 10, let's just check it out here. I'm going to go into, where is that? I'm trying to find, because I have data usage. Data usage. If you go to your search in Windows 10 and you type data usage, it will bring you into system settings for data usage of your connection. So that's in network and internet in the settings. Data usage will tell you how much you've used. So for example, here in the last 30 days, it says that my Wi-Fi on my laptop was 46.38 gigabytes. So basically 30 days being pretty much a cycle for the data used on a internet connection, because most of us are on monthly plans. You can check there, and you know what? If you want to compare, what you could do is, for example, check before the show. Say next week you want to watch. You check before the show how much you are on that Wi-Fi data usage, and check after the show, and you'll see how much data actually you've consumed by watching videos. Basically, you can probably use this as in pretty accurate connection information of how much data. So you have Wi-Fi and Ethernet. So if you're plugged in or you're on Wi-Fi, both will show how many gigabytes you've used. And so that's interesting for that. And another thing I want to check for is that when you're in a metered connection, in the settings, you have metered connection. And the metered connection, I believe, lets you, if you want, add a cap. You can say, I don't want to use more than 180 gigs a month. So let's see here. And the settings, all settings, go into network and internet. And let's just check here. I'm trying to find, okay, Wi-Fi. In Wi-Fi, I have advanced option, Wi-Fi settings, advanced options. Yeah, metered connections, you can turn it on. And if you turn on the metered connections, I don't see any data that you can check, but at least one thing that it does if you put it in metered connection is, of course, not download all the updates all the time. That could save you a little bit, but your best bet is to go into settings, network, and internet, and just check data usage there. That will tell you in your computer how much you've used. You can click the usage details. It's even going to tell you which apps use the most data. So if you're wondering how much was Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, and so on. So for example, here when I click app usage, it tells me Chrome 30 gigabytes, OneDrive 13 gigabytes, Microsoft Edge 1 gigabyte, and so on. So it tells me which apps use data on my network also. That's also an interesting information to have. So that's basically the information you can get from your computer just by going into the settings, network and internet, and data usage on the left side. And just compare. Check after you've watched a series of videos, a movie, maybe you've watched this show for 2 hours, and check out how it works. It's going to tell you basically how much data you've used, that's for sure. And we're going to answer 2 last questions and keep all the other information for next week. One from Yan Luo that was sent about half an hour before the show today. Hi, I will be buying a new laptop very soon, but I have one software required by work that only runs on Windows 7, 8.1. I've tried running it on Windows 10 and the compatibility mode to Windows 7 and 8, but it's not working. Would it be, is there any other methods I can run this software on Windows 10 other than a virtual machine? I'm asking this because all the computers I am considering would come with Windows 10 pre-installed. If I can downgrade to Windows 7 or 8.1 without paying extra, that would solve the problem as well. I would like to get the hardware spec I like without having problem running the software. Any tips? Thank you very much for all your wonderful Windows videos, as well as your time to answer my question. So Yan Luo, that's a tough one because I understand there are many software that actually require specific versions. One that comes to mind is a friend of mine has a piece of software for accounting, and when you bought a new MacBook and installed Windows 10 in a virtual, and he found out that, oh, it's not compatible with Windows 10. You have to have Windows 8 or 7. Unfortunately, there are some software like that that don't have upgrades yet. Now, one thing you got to understand is that eventually you'll have an upgrade, unless it's an older software that doesn't have updates anymore. But most of them will eventually be compatible. In a very recent machine, running in virtualization will actually be quite fast. So that, I think, is a way you can do it, and your best bet. Running in virtualization, Windows 7 or Windows 8, to have that working will probably be the best thing you can do. And you know what? It's gonna enable you to buy that machine, the one you want. You know what? In recent computers, if you buy something that's powerful, everything's powerful today, but if you buy something that's just nice, it's going to run fine in virtualization. So I wouldn't be, it wouldn't be a problem, I think, for that. And you get the machine you want. The only other thing apart from that would, be to buy a laptop or a computer that still runs 8.1. I'm sure you can still find some on the market pretty much everywhere and run 8.1, which will eventually, from what I see, have it compatible. And that would give you a possibility that if that software has an update, well, you have until July of next year to upgrade for free to Windows 10 from there. So that could be a possibility. And if not, if you buy a machine with 8.1, what's interesting is that you can also dual boot, meaning that you can have that machine in Windows 10 for your own usage, but you'll have Windows 8.1 available for work because that software only works in Windows 8.1. So these are possibilities that I would think can be interesting for you. But even, don't hesitate to buy that machine you want and run it in virtualization. I think it's going to work fine. So I hope I answered your question. Tim Robinson had sent me a message also saying he was talking last week about his video card with S-Video out. And he says that he's found a way now to have the video out working by just putting the basic functionalities of the drivers for his very old 9600 GT NVIDIA card. And S-Video and TVs and it's something. Even 7 or 8 years ago, when that was the norm, when every video card had an S-Video out, it was, some real problematic way of actually working. I remember on my desktop, the last desktop that I used, I had a video card with the S-Video. I had a Sony TV, and so I output to that Sony TV, and just get it working was a real hassle. It was something incredible. So really something to check for there. It's always complicated when you use old technology and even new. I have a friend of mine that has a brand new Sony TV and has a Windows 10 computer, and for some reason, when you plugged in HDMI, because it's HDMI, the TV would not show the picture because it was in the wrong resolution, and the computer was not giving the right information to the TV. But you know what? You don't have a screen to see anything. And you have to have it working, and you have no idea because you can't see nothing. It shows you how sometimes even the newest technology is some really some asshole there. Really weird. Really weird. As a compliment here to the forced Windows 10 downloads, Tim Robinson says, I read somewhere that people who didn't get the Win 10 to start download were missing some updates. And to disable the Windows 10 download requires, basically the same. What downloads your Windows 10 is in part that little icon that gives you the possibility to have Windows 10 in the taskbar. If you uninstall those, of course, you'll have the possibility of not getting it for a little while. But it's complicated. And it is true that probably the people that don't have that download are missing updates. That's possible. Thanks, Shill, for the live show. It's always nice to have everybody on board. We'll check that. And he has a nice little comment here about overclock a microwave. Just heard that was I was typing. Well, you know what? I understand that. I don't know why we would overclock a microwave, um, except for the fact that it might actually make the timer work even faster. So, if you put 30 seconds, you'll have something in 20 seconds. But if overclocking will not make the power of your microwave, it will not increase the power of the microwave. But that's just funny. And he had as he's mentioning, he had an old video card that actually was made to run at faster speeds. Well, you know what? One thing that you have that I've noticed a lot, some video cards from third-party companies that sometimes, for example, you'll buy, the two main chips are NVIDIA and AMD, Radeon, and there's Intel in there. So say there's like 3 vendors of chips, but the biggest cards, the ones that are most powerful, come from usually AMD, Radeon, or NVIDIA. And when you go to a computer store, you might see, for example, an NVIDIA chip in a other brand company. I had one card like that. And so you look at the card and it's like, okay, this is an Asus card, but with a chipset for NVIDIA. And I've noticed that very often what they do is they take the NVIDIA or the Radeon chipset and graphics processor, and instead of putting just a teeny weeny fan on it, they put this really big heatsink and they overclock it. So a lot of the cards that I've seen sold on other brand names often are overclocked graphics processors from the regular brand, which makes them faster. But I've had a few of those, and they usually don't last as long as the other cards. So, hey guys, we've gone through another show, tech show number 4. I'm a prisoner, as Halloween is here. Hope you enjoyed the show. We had a steady stream of people watching today, which was very nice. We got lots of questions that were sent today that I've not answered yet. And we're going to continue, of course, next week. I've managed to answer all the questions that I had left from last week, and that I received during the week. So that's cool. We're not too much behind. I'll keep the questions we had today. We had a lot of questions. We had one from Satyanarayana Napana, Adam Bianco, Tim Robinson has another one, Stephen Klaus, Amy Flanagan, and so on. We'll answer your questions. Another one from Carol. I have another one from William here. So, we'll answer all of that next week. And you know what? If during the week a question pops up to your mind, you want to know the answer, and you watch the live show, helpwithyourcomputers@gmail.com is the place to go. You'll have, your little spot with your question, and I'll try to answer it next week in our show. And hope that everything goes well to you. Thank you for another great show, because it's fun to have all of you and the interaction that everybody has. It's really cool. And don't forget, helpwithyourcomputers@gmail.com. We are here next week, 3 to 5 p.m., always on Tuesdays. And hope you enjoy our show. Take care, everyone.